Good afternoon, fellow FINEX members and guest speakers. I hope you are well and safe wherever you are today. I'm Maria Victoria Españo, your host for today's webinar. This webinar was presented to you by the Financial Executives Institute of the Philippines through its Women in Finance Committee, and it is entitled Rising Up to the Challenges in the New World Order. Before we start, I would like to invite everybody in a prayer to be followed by the Philippine National Anthem. Let us all put ourselves in the presence of God. Father God, all glory, honor, and blessing, all power and might, all praise and thanksgiving be to you. Abba, Father, to us all. We stand on your word, declaring that when we call upon you, you will answer us and be with us in distress. Our deliverer and healer, we seek your protection for our families and all of us from the scourge of COVID-19 and all manner of disease and affliction. We pray especially for our health workers who tirelessly perform their duties at great risk to themselves. We pray for all of us co-workers in the business community that we may perform our tasks with greater diligence in these difficult times to serve each other and our country in solidarity and spirit of social responsibility. We pray for all those in authority in government and the private sector, that they may have all wisdom, competence, and strength to lead us and serve through this period of crisis, with special attention to our poor and disadvantaged brethren who are struggling to survive. We pray for reconciliation and peace among all Filipinos as we come to better realize our oneness as people in good times and bad, as common dread unites us. So in acknowledgement of our dependence on you and in obedience, we approach you, Father God, humble ourselves and pray, seek your presence and turn from our evil ways, that you may listen from heaven, forgive us our sins, and revive our land. In the loving name of your Son, Jesus, we pray. Amen. Let us place our right hand on our chest and sing the Philippine National Anthem together. May I call now the chair of the Women in Finance Committee and the Chief Financial Officer of FINEX Technologies, Ms. Terry Magleo, for her opening remarks.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Terry, we can hear you.
Okay. Thank you for the nice introduction, Maribik, and thank you very much for the moving prayer. A pleasant afternoon, everyone. I'm Terry Magleo, chairperson of the Women in Finance Committee of FINEX, whose members are presidents, CEOs, managing directors, and CFOs of top-notch companies in fintech, banking, tax, legal, audit, advertising, manufacturing, and consultancy. I'm very pleased to welcome our local and international participants of this webinar, aptly titled, Rising Up to the Challenges in the New World Order. This COVID-19 pandemic has brought our lives to a halt and exempted no one. Amidst this crisis, whose leadership have risen up to the challenges ahead of others and generated so much media attention. A number of female leaders have emerged as benchmarks for managing effectively this pandemic, such as Angela Merkel of Germany, for her data-driven trustworthiness through inclusive participation by diverse experts, Jacinda Ardern of New Zealand, for her empathetic rationality and communication style, and Tsai Ing-wen of Taiwan for her resilience. Other remarkable leaders are Katrin Jakobsdottir of Iceland, Sanna Marin of Finland, Erna Solberg of Norway, and Mette Frederiksen of Denmark. Inasmuch as we don't want to draw conclusions about women leaders from a few exceptional individuals acting in exceptional circumstances, we must learn from their valuable feminine qualities and leadership styles. Based on the expert studies, these common traits are resilience, risk aversion, benevolence, compassion, communication with listening, collaboration, humility, inclusivity, diversity, and empathy. If female leadership is gaining more attention in world politics, how about the business sector in Asia, particularly in the Philippines? As a backdrop, Women in Finance Committee was established in 2017 by Dick Du Baladad, CEO of Baladad Law Office, during her presidency in 2017. We have 58 members and counting. Based on the recent survey, the Philippines tops the list from amongst 32 countries with the highest women executives holding management positions. Grant Thornton International, whose chair and CEO, Maribik Españo, is our MC today and FINEX past president, reported that 43% of the executives in the Philippines are women. This is a tremendous jump from 37% of last year, when the country ranked 5th among the 35 countries participated in the survey. Now, Philippines is number 1. Other countries in top 5 are South Africa, Poland, Mexico, and Indonesia. And taking the last spot, meanwhile, is Japan for obvious reasons. The top 3 positions are Chief Financial Officer at 38%, Human Resources Director at 36%, and Chief Operating Officers at 23%. The Philippine business sectors are stepping up its efforts to increase more gender diversity at 94% of the Philippine firms, removing barriers to gender parity at senior levels. As such, we have designed this webinar to know how global organizations for women respond to the needs of our women and continue to make a positive impact in the midst of global COVID-19 pandemic. Likewise, we encourage finance professionals to maximize their potentials in addressing current realities and in navigating future challenges of this new normal world order. Let me thank President Zhang, the program participants of the Women in Finance Committee, Maribik, Baby, Malu, Larry, and Gay, and of course, our very, very hardworking secretariat, Mike, Lynn, Jam, Alex, Jeff, and for putting all this together. Special thanks to our highly esteemed speakers who are well known in their respective fields. Dr. Karen Remo, a marketing strategy and communications expert in the Middle East and the Philippines. Mr. Elwyn, Panggabean, advisory lead for Southeast Asia of Women's World Banking, and Ms. Ruth Owen, who has had 20 years of experience in renewable energy and co-founder of several programs for women. With these inputs from our notable speakers, please expect a vibrant and exciting new normal afternoon. God will see us through. God bless us all. Thank you.
Thank you, Terry. You indeed mentioned two important competencies: resilience and openness to diversity in ideas. These are indeed very important qualities and characteristics for leaders to deal with and stay ahead during these challenging times. And we hope to hear more of that from our speakers. But before going towards the main section, let me call on the Liaison Director of FINEX Institute for the Women in Finance Committee and the VP and Chief Advisory Officer of Marsh Philippines, Ms. Larry Concepcion, to give us a brief background on what the Women in Finance Committee is doing to promote women interests. Larry?
Thank you, Marivic. Yeah, thank you, Marivic. Good afternoon to all of you. Women in Finance actually was a brainchild of our past president, Attorney Dick Dubaladad, during her stint as the president of FINEX in 2017. So our mission statement is to provide a platform where issues affecting women and their ability to become strong contributors to the economy and society are discussed. It aims to create, design, and implement programs and activities towards the development and upliftment of women's lives. Our vision, Women in Finance, is a major pillar of FINEX that aims to promote and support causes that uplift women in a community of an active, empathetic, please note, men and women FINEX members united by a common goal to help improve the lives of women in all strata, and one that advocates for women empowerment in the workplace, community, and society in general. So we actually have two objectives. The first of which is to bring women's issues, their discussion and resolution to the collective consciousness of the Women in Finance Committee members and the FINEX members in general. And the second, to provide women for women platforms and programs that connect women, allowing the Women in Finance Committee members opportunities to work together to participate in developing their communities and the nation. For the past 3 years, we actually embarked on a lot of projects, which we've actually divided into two segments. One actually is the learning opportunities, training, if you call it that, for the Women in Finance members and FINEX in general. We are also pleased to note that all the resource speakers that we have had in the past are all our colleagues in the Women in Finance, very experienced and experts in their respective fields. So we had a moving up the corporate ladder led by Malu Cristobal. And then we had a forum on women on boards with Baby Noesa on August 21, 2019. And going up the C-suites conducted by Sharon Dayawan. And actually, we invited an external and an expert, Carolina Dominguez, to also co-facilitate with Sharon. For our activities involving the communities and non-FINEX members, so we had financial literacy training conducted by our very own Noemi Villaruz. We participated in the Go Negosyo mentorship through our very own Tesli Makulangan, who discussed the importance of cash management and liquidity to a Go Negosyo webinar entitled Mentor Me Online. Tess also did a lecture on entrepreneurial accounting and financial management. To enable women in finance to actually sustain our activities and projects, we embark into fundraising activities. So we had several, actually an annual film showing, and somehow we've chosen topics which could actually add value to the FINEX members and to all the audience in particular. So we did Ang Araw sa Likod Mo on August 24. This is actually a story about the lives of the rebel Muslim in their encounter against the government soldiers. So this is actually a realization that, you know, it's a very hard experience for them, sacrificing their respective families in the case of the government soldiers just to be able to serve the country and protect us, the citizenry. And then we had Honor, Legacy of Jose Abad Santos on May 18, 2018. Then for the kids, we also considered them. We had Toy Story 4 on June 22, 2019. So the proceeds that we were able to collect from all our fundraising activities were actually used to support our projects and donations to the various civic organizations. For the past 3 years, we're happy to note that we have contributed a total of 725,000 pesos. So amongst the recipients were, we had a gift giving activity in 2 hospitals housed in the hospitals for soldiers who have been the casualties of the Marawi siege. So we donated a total of 220,000 pesos and 180 gift checks worth 500 peso each, or 90,000 in total, courtesy of Generica. So these cash and gift checks were donated to the individual soldiers confined in the hospital. We also donated a minor donation of 41 monoblocks chairs to the Army General Hospital. Cash donation to Caritas and Heroes Foundation amounting to 200,000 in 2017. We did a cash donation to various organizations, the likes of SOS Village, DMI South Cemetery Community, Mindanao Classroom Construction, Indigenous of Surigao del Sur, and SVD Project for the extrajudicial killing orphans, totaling 245,000 pesos in 2018. We also launched a scholarship through the Connected Women, actually headed by Ruth here, and donated 60,000 pesos. And then lastly, we donated to the Paghilom Center for the extrajudicial killing victims' families for a total of 100,000 pesos. We are actually sad to say that we are not able to give any donations or launch any project for this year because we've not been able to push through with our supposed fund campaign drive this year, for obvious reason that everyone was put to a standstill during this COVID-19 crisis. So with that, you can see how exciting to become a member of the Women in Finance. So I'm taking the opportunity to invite all the great women out there to participate in our committee, to be a member of our committee, and be part of the worthwhile and relevant endeavors to empower women and to enrich and broaden women's contribution for the good of their respective families, communities, and society as a whole. So with this, I thank you all and enjoy the rest of the afternoon.
Thank you, Larry. There is indeed so much we can do in FINEX to promote the development of women so that they would be able to contribute more in their homes, workplace, and community, as you pointed out. So aside from the women, I'd like to extend the invitation for the men as well, the male members of FINEX who share the same advocacy to participate in the various activities of the Women in Finance Committee. Now, I'd like to call on Ms. Sherisa Baby Nuesa, President and Board Director of ALFM, Mutual Funds Group to introduce our distinguished guest speakers for this afternoon.
Thank you, Marivic. It is indeed a privilege for me to introduce an impressive roster of speakers. Before I start the introductions, allow me to just mention very briefly the guidelines for the panel talk. Each speaker will have 20 minutes for his or her presentation. It will be followed by a reaction from a reactor who will give her comments and share her thoughts on the speeches. Now, during the panel discussion, we will allow questions, and this section on the Q&A will be hosted by a very able moderator and a seasoned banker, Ms. Marilu Cristobal of the Multinational Investment Bank Corporation. Now for our keynote speakers and the reactor. I am actually privileged to know the first speaker, who's a fellow alumna of the Far Eastern University, where she graduated magna cum laude in mass communication. Now, since I started with her education, allow me now to add that she has an MBA and a doctorate degree of philosophy in business management from PCU Middle East, the latter also with magna cum laude honors. She also took postgraduate courses from Harvard. She prefers for today the title Chief Entrepreneur Officer, as she is a co-founder of her very successful company in Dubai. Now, what does this lady do in Dubai? Until I met her through FEU Chairman Gigi Montinola, I didn't know that a Filipina was CEO and Managing Director of a successful group of a full-range media and marketing agency group. The company is called New Perspective Media, based in Dubai with 4 offices in the Middle East and Asia Pacific across 36 countries. She is also the publisher of the Filipino Times, the largest digital news portal for Filipinos in the Middle East. The Filipino Times newspaper has a global footprint in over 230 countries around the world. She also is the managing editor of the official publication of the UAE Ministry of Interior. Now, this charming lady is multi-awarded internationally. She was named the 2019 Female Leader of the Year in the Middle East, the first Filipino awardee by the Middle East Economic Digest, which is the region's oldest publication. She was one of the recipients of the 2015 Asian Women Leadership Awards, this time by Asian Leadership Congress. Are you hearing me, ladies?
Yes, loud and clear, baby.
Okay. She is a socio-civic advocate, and our guest speaker lives with her 17-year-old daughter in Dubai. Her pretty daughter, Naomi, is another achiever who collected 13 gold and silver medals in the 2019 World Scholars Cup competitions in the US and other countries. How often do we ever encounter a Filipino woman in the Middle East? Do we ever encounter a Filipino woman in the Middle East as a recognized business leader and advisor to governments, corporations, and NGOs? Please help me welcome an accomplished entrepreneur, at the same time a great cook, wonderful mother, and a great friend, Dr. Karen Remo. The next speaker represents Women's World Banking, a US-based global institution that designs and invests in the financial solutions, institutions, and policy environments for gender inclusion and women's welfare, particularly in emerging markets. Isn't it wonderful to have a gentleman championing gender-related causes?
This gentleman also served as a former senior banker at one of the largest state-owned banks in Indonesia and as a consultant at a firm focused on financial inclusions. His work experiences in Indonesia then encompassed various areas, including the development of financial inclusion ecosystems, plus the promotion of economic and social inclusion through mostly digital systems. He holds a Master of Arts in Development Studies, Economics of Development as a major field from the International Institute of Social Studies of Erasmus University, Rotterdam in the Netherlands. He is also an avid traveler and diver. It is a privilege to welcome and introduce a male advocate for gender and social inclusion, Mr. Elwyn Panggabean, actor, to share her thoughts and comments on the topics to be presented by Karen and Elwyn, has almost 20 years of experience in the field of renewable energy, developing wind power, hydropower, and solar projects. She is the president of UJEP Upgrade Energy Philippines, a subsidiary of her own company, Philcarbon. The company offers renewable energy and energy efficiency expertise from engineering, procurement, construction to managing a portfolio of commercial and industrial solar roof and other energy solutions. This lady is the chairperson of the Energy Committee of the European Chamber of Commerce of the Philippines and also Vice President for External Affairs for the Philippine Energy Efficiency Alliance. Besides her work in the clean energy sector, she is passionate about empowering women in the workforce and is the co-founder of Connected Women, a social impact tech startup dedicated to women seeking to work digitally from home. So timely and much needed in this work from home environment. With all this, she is into golf, dancing, and scuba diving. We welcome with enthusiasm our reactor and another lady achiever, Miss Ruth Owen. Now, allow me now to turn over the screen to our first speaker, Dr. Karen Remo. Karen, over to you.
Hi, hello everyone. Could you hear me, baby?
Hello, yes, yes.
Oh, thank you so much. That was a very kind, oh my God, I'm overwhelmed with introduction.
For a while, I thought the audio wasn't working that well. Go ahead, Karen.
Okay. So let me just, so Eid Mubarak, advance Eid Mubarak to everyone. And good morning from Dubai, all over the world, because we know that we have international audience today. Thank you very much for being with us today. Your time is very precious and we appreciate the effort of being with us. I'm just starting my timer now. I would like to say thank you as well to the organizers, FINEX, through its Women in Finance Committee. Amazing people, really. You know, they're very passionate, very highly accomplished, and what their hearts really say is to help and improve the lives of many people. I would like to say thank you as well to the CEOs, CFO, and business owners who generously shared their time with me in preparation for this talk, because I really wanted to know what are the pressing issues that finance executives are experiencing today. So without further ado, I will be talking about from CFO to CEO, the top skills that will help executives thrive in this entrepreneurship-led world order. Okay. 3 points that we will discuss quickly. Who's your biggest competition? What are the characteristics of this new world order? And the top skills to thrive in this new era. Who could be your biggest competition? If you are into coffee making, if you are into retail, if you are into coffee or baking cakes, are you going to be thinking of Goldilocks Red Ribbon? If it's going to be meat, Magnolia CDO, or if it's apparel, Forever 21 H&M? The easiest way to do that is to look at the advertising that's popping up on your screen on social media. Are they the ones you're seeing? Or are you seeing these ads? Ads, not necessarily paid, by people around you, your friends, your family. In fact, the one on the right is actually my daughter's little online shop. And then on the left side is my sister's meat shop, now online. The landscape has changed. Before, if you were thinking that if your son or daughter is playing video games, you would say, oh my gosh, what are you doing with your life? That's not the case anymore. Shook's TV, very popular for gaming, has bought his own house. If I'm the mom, I'd be saying, go kiddo, do more video gaming. And who says that, if you're just in your living room, hanging out with your boyfriend, you can make billions? Well, Melanie Perkins is now Australia's youngest ever billionaire. She's a Filipino-Australian, and her net worth, because of the online platform she made for online graphic, is now worth $2.5 billion. Indeed, if you would think that gaming is a small thing, think again, because now it is bigger than the NBA, music, film, the hockey league, the NFL. Just gaming is way, way bigger than all of this combined at $139 billion revenue per year. So big that even last year, we saw that in ASEAN SEA Games, we had gaming in there, which, by the way, Philippines won gold. We had a survey and we asked netizens of the Filipino Times, how many of you want to have a business, an online business? Guess what? 9 out of 10. This is the biggest entrepreneurship bandwagon of all time. Who is your biggest competition? They are the entrepreneurs. They don't necessarily have names, but they come in multitudes of armies. So be prepared and be ready for them. What is the characteristics of this new world order then? They say that the COVID-19 pandemic is very similar to the Great Depression, which sealed the World War II during the 1930s. So what do you see? Oh, sorry. Hang on for a moment. Apparently, it's not shared. I'll just put it here.
Okay, we can see it now,
okay.
Dr. Karen.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you. Sorry for that trouble. Okay, so let me just go back to this. Okay, that is the one that I was talking about, that the gaming session is bigger than all of them combined. And in terms of the characteristics of the New World Order, so in Great Depression and COVID-19, there is actually a parallelism. First is the dip in the GDP. So you would know that this is the lowest contraction in GDP. Both ways are similar. Another thing is that the baby boom. A lot of our viewers right now are in this generation. They're wonderful people because, after the war, you have an increase in birth rate. So you have baby boomers. That's why you have that generation. In COVID-19, because of the lockdown, it's expected that by next year, you will see another boom, baby boom. This time they will be called lockdown babies. And during this Great Depression, after that, there was a rise of a new era, which was called the management era. Because at the time, you have to manage the resources. So people had to understand that. There was a shift from work hard to work smart. And then you already saw the introduction of the mass production and then the mass communication. And you have to manage things into mass level or bulk. Now in COVID-19, what kind of era are we seeing? The rise of entrepreneurship. This is the new era right now. Now, the good news is that in everything, there's always an opportunity. In Chinese, they say that it's called wei ti. Crisis is wei ti in Chinese, and there are two words there, danger and opportunity. So what's the opportunity for all of us? Another characteristics of this world order is that it's ruled by the four horsemen: Google, Amazon, Facebook, and Apple. Combine them together, and they are actually bigger than the GDP of Russia and Canada. At $2.3 trillion, they are on a par with India. Combined together, The revenues of these 4 companies is 6 times bigger than United Arab Emirates and 8 times bigger than the Philippines. Now, they control your dopamine and your serotonin and endorphin, the happy hormones. Google touches your intellect, Facebook, your emotions, Amazon, whatever you need, you just want to buy, and Apple touches on your sensuality. Now, the good thing about this is even if they rule it, what they do is they encourage entrepreneurs all over the world because no one owns the internet. By doing so, they also make revenues and they also monetize from the entrepreneurs. Now, long time ago, when we had the factors of production in our theory books, we know that the 4 factors of production is land, labor, capital, and enterprise. But not anymore. Why? Because land is not necessarily hard to obtain now because everything is almost digital. Labor, you can outsource, there's AI, capital, well, you can raise funds. You just have to look for investors. What's left now is entrepreneur. So the new factors of production right now is very entrepreneur-centric. Going to the 3 points of the characteristics of this era, it's inclusive, there's low business barrier, and it's borderless. It's inclusive. We were talking about gender equality. It's gonna be accepting anyone, whether you're black, white, brown, whatever age you have, whatever gender you have. It is inclusive. It has also low business barrier. How does it work? In 2014, for 5 years in the UAE, there was no one going out to public market for an IPO or listing. A group of investors came to us and say, hey, we wanted to raise 3.8 billion pesos or 275 million dirhams in IPO. And I was thinking, okay, what's the product? We don't have a product. There was no management to speak of. There was just a business plan. It's a startup. And we were thinking, okay, challenge accepted. We are going to raise 275 million dirhams or 3.8 billion peso in an economy which is very bearish and weak, where the company has no experience, has got no credentials. And number 3, when there actually is no product at all. What we had was a promise. But when we launched it, when we created the marketing and the promotions and PR, we were able to help raise 149 billion pesos or 10.7 billion dirhams. It's 36 times oversubscribed. The barrier to business now has been lower than ever. And today the era is borderless, okay? The Filipino Times is based in Dubai, but we have readership in 236 countries. Before, the growth was almost always vertical. When I was a journalist, I was thinking, oh my God, when will I be the editor-in-chief? Because, you know, you have to wait until your editor resigns, retires, because it's so hard to actually go onto the top. Now, because of entrepreneurship, growth is now horizontal. It's borderless. No one owns the internet. Always remember that. You can have your share in the table. This is my story. In 2003, I became a young mom just right after graduation. I was thinking, oh boy, what am I gonna do? I have no job, have no money, have no experience. But I only had one thing. I had a dream not for myself, but for my daughter, to have a good life, specifically have good education. And entrepreneurship enables me to achieve that. So I went to Dubai and I said, okay, is it gonna be hard? It was hard. There was one time when I was an international editor of a publication and people were not following me, and I said, why? And somebody was brave enough to tell me that because you're Asian, you're a woman, and you're young. I had 3 disabilities apparently, but you just keep on working and the rewards follow. And I said to myself, one day I will make not only my parents proud, but also my homeland proud. And so it was. I started my own company. And in 2019, as Baby mentioned last year, so I'm proud to say that a Filipino for the first time has been given the honor to achieve the Middle East Economic Digest Leader of the Year. This is my daughter now. And she was so small. And I do remember that I'm 17 years now in Dubai because she's also 17 years old. This would not have happened without the courage to be an entrepreneurship, without the courage to do entrepreneurial enterprises. Entrepreneurship is the greatest equalizer. You know why? Because business is all about satisfying a customer. Doesn't matter who you are. What matters is to satisfy the needs of your customer. The characteristics of today's time is inclusive, low business barrier, and it's borderless. Now, what now are the top skills to help professionals thrive in this new era? How can you thrive now? Before, the currency were cash and land, things that were so scarce. It was so hard to get land during the feudalism time. It was so hard to raise capital during the beginning of the capitalism era. Now, the scarcity is attention because everything is just on your phone. Anybody who gets access to your smartphone has an access to your wallet. So a share of attention equals a share of wallet. So it's all about attention, whether it's internal customer or external customer. You get their awareness first, you get them interested, the desire, and then they buy from you. That's why we're here for in our profession, to be able to create something of value, but they will not know it if they don't know you. And you cannot have that attention if you don't have communication skills. Very, very important. The role of the CEO now is what? You have been very, very good in finance, which is the very reason why every company is standing strong right now. It's the core. But now the landscape has changed, and so should you. Now, your world is no longer just finance. Now you also have to roll up your sleeves, understand operations, support the entrepreneurs. You cannot support operations if you don't know exactly what they're doing. Understand how sales and marketing work, the strategy, and also be communicating always and understand HR matters. Because as you know, and I have asked top CEOs and CFOs about this, what was a priority during this pandemic? Communication. So you communicate, at the heart of it is your customer, but you also have to learn how to communicate to your regulators, community, media, investors, suppliers, and employees. And you have to communicate with them in the language that they understand. So find out what they want, find out who they are, and then find out the language that they will understand. The difference between now and before. During the management era, financial executives were very much of an archiver, to understand what was 2019 like, what was 2018 like. And they were very finance focused, very, very good at it. And they're like, according to one of my interviews, they're like policemen, you control things. And because of this focus, you have become so number savvy. So sometimes in communication, it's becoming full of jargons or jargons and gobbledygooks for some people. So it's important now that because we're serving a different era, we also adapt the new kind of era. So in addition to all this, we have to add more skills. The skills are future programming. You have to understand the technology as well. Understand what is domain and hosting. Understand, because if you don't understand something, you will be controlling it. And the future is technology driven. So understand how it works. You should also be multi-stakeholders focused. Understand all the dynamics and what's happening in a company or even outside your organization. Be a marketing enabler. When it's crisis, it's like a war. And when you are in a war, what is the first thing that you give to your soldiers? Ammunition. Marketing is ammunition. Why is it that in every war, pandemic or any crisis, the first thing that's being taken away is ammunition? I don't understand. And whenever I tell this to clients, they will say, you're right. We have to understand that marketing is not an expense. It is actually an ammunition to be able to go back to growth trend. You are already number savvy. It's about time that you become communication savvy. Again, understanding who your audience is, what they want, and the language that they want to hear it. It is very, very much your time, financial executives. Before, if you have 5 minutes in the boardroom, you now have 5 hours. Take advantage of this opportunity. Own the space and communicate more and more. Some are not very comfortable, but because for a long time, they've been very focused on numbers, but now is the best time to actually practice. Then communication becomes a very easy thing because it becomes second to your nature. Also, I will not sugarcoat what's happening in the world. We are in a crisis right now, but if you have other skills, you'll be able to survive. This executive is based in the UAE. She's a financial executive, lost her job, but you know what? She said thank you to her employers, and it was shared by thousands and thousands of times. The employer called her back. She was rehired, not in finance, but in marketing. It's about time that we widen our skills. Let's use this opportunity to improve our skills. So to sum up, who is our biggest competition right now? Are they the big ones? Think again, because your biggest competition are the entrepreneurs. And in this era, the characteristics are, it's inclusive, low business barrier, and it's borderless. And to be able to thrive in this new era, you need the following skills. Entrepreneurship skills. Okay, that's 18 minutes. Communication and technology. Thank you so much. If you have any questions, please, you can reach me at Karen@newperspectivemedia.com. I'm also on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. Please do. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Karen. Now I'd like to call on Elwyn.
Okay, let me share my screen first. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes, we can, Elwyn.
Right. Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. First of all, I would like to say thank you on behalf of Women's World Banking. I'm very grateful to give a chance for us to speak in this prestigious event, to share about like our stories at Women's World Banking and how we make impacts to particularly women, especially during this current pandemic. I'm here to represent our CEO, Mary Ellen Iskandarian. She cannot make it like due to this time difference in New York. But yeah, I hope as an advisory lead for Southeast Asia market, I can share some of our stories here, what we do and how we adjust ourselves during this crisis. And I hope that this can inspire you all to also starting or continue your great works in giving impact to women during this pandemic. So to anyone who's not familiar with Women's World Banking, I'll share briefly about our organization to give more context on what we are actually doing and what impacts that we want to provide to particularly women. Yeah. So Women's World Banking is a non-profit organization. We are based in New York City, focusing on financial inclusions, particularly to women and their families. We've been here for the last 40 years, and we've been working to financially empower low-income women in emerging markets because we know that bringing women to the formal financial sector can reduce poverty, increase equality, and has lasting intergenerational effects. With our work, our vision is to provide security, prosperity, and empowerment to women. And how and why women? I mean, like in this forum, there are so many great women. I believe that you already have like the knowledge and the context about this, but I would like to share that some data show from the global FINEX that until now, globally, there are still like a gender gap in financial inclusion stands around 9%, or the total number is around like 1 billion women are unbanked or underserved. So clearly that there is a huge gap that we still need to work on to reduce the gap, to empower more women around the world. And most of these number live in some countries such as Bangladesh, China, India, Indonesia, Mexico, Nigeria, or Pakistan. So clearly that this is like the area that need to work harder to reduce the gender gap and provide like more empowerment to particularly women. Some statistic that you can see in these slides shows how important women is, because you can find that 8 out of 10 women are like involved in like small businesses around the world. And Dr. Karen shared about like entrepreneurship, and we found also there are so many women become like a micro entrepreneur, yeah, especially like during this pandemic. There are growing numbers that women started like their own business to, you know, like to support their family, because like many of their spouse like losing jobs, so they should, you know, support like the family. And we can also see why this is important for us. Yeah, the question is like, why do we want to support women? What are the opportunities and what are the benefits? The research by Goldman Sachs Global Market found that closing the gender gap in credit access only can improve developing world growth rates up to 1.1%. This is a huge number. And on the other hand, McKinsey Global Institute also estimates that if we close this gender gap, we can add around like $28 trillion to the global GDP. So the impact is very, very big to the macroeconomics. From the financial services providers' perspectives, through our projects working with like different financial institutions, we identify also that women has like a good savings behavior. In average, they save around like 10 to 15% of their earnings, particularly around like to support their family, healthcare, child educations, etc., related to their family. So they have the capacity, but most of them still do saving in some like informal ways. So this is like one of the area that we think that we can leverage to move them like from informal to formal financial services. From the customer perspective itself, we can also see that women is actually like a good borrower. Yeah, I mean, like some of our partner reports to us that the NPL rate between men and women is men is actually like higher than women. So this is a good indication also, and hopefully can motivate financial institutions to also focus on women and providing access to them more like to financial products and services. And how are we going to do that? How Women's Banking deliver our works to bring the impacts to the women? There are 3 key areas that we are doing through our works. One is working with and through local financial institutions, we create and pilot market-driven solutions that can increase acquisitions, activations, and engagement by women towards financial products and services. The solutions can be anything. It can be like a product related. It can be marketing and communication strategy. It can be operational procedures, including policy advocacy related to the policymakers, including like to the financial institutions itself. We usually do this with our network members, and to date we have around like 51 members in 28 countries, and we want to grow. And actually, I do not know if there is anyone like in this room from our network members, but in the Philippines, we have 2 network members. One is Cardbank and also NWTF. So this is like one of the way how we make impacts through our work. The second one, we also believe that if we want to do some changes, we need also to work internally through the organizations. So we do some investment through women-focused institutions to make sure that these institutions will focus their business like in women, have like some gender disaggregated data, and provide more access like to women. The last one, we believe that we cannot make changes only like by working like through projects. But what we can do if we want to bring like a bigger impact, we have to change the leaders itself, right? Because like by shifting the paradigm of the leaders, hopefully then they can also more concerned in giving impacts like to women. And we also support and push like all our partners and network members to have like a gender diverse teams within their organizations by giving more opportunity to women to lead the organizations, because we believe that once women lead the organizations, then the focus and the strategy of that organization will also be more into women. And how's I mean like the situations now with our work with the impact of COVID-19. I think you can find like some details of our stories of our focus, our art reports related to COVID-19 impacts on our website. What you can see here on the screen is an overview what we see as the global situations as it relates to our world of women's financial empowerment. The first, we have to realize or admit that the emerging markets face unique challenges to COVID-19. For instance, like poor healthcare facility or infrastructure, high population density, including like limited budget to support the population. So it's not the same like from one country to another. Besides like the case, it's also different, but like the power of each government also to solve this problem is different from one to another. The second one, we see that emerging markets also face challenges in managing the economic impact of the crisis. Many businesses like slowing down or even closed because of the lockdown. It makes like the growth of the economic in every country is like very, very low. In fact, like it is projected globally that the global growth to be contracted around 3%. And in some emerging countries, it can go like to negative growth, including like Indonesia, unfortunately, that we estimate that the growth is going to be like negative for the next couple of years. So the third one, we see that a financial sector is one of the sector that get hit hard from this crisis, including like tourism. It makes that our work to give impact through financial services to the women, it's even like more difficult, because now the financial institutions maybe have like their own priority, they have like liquidity issues, they have like problems with the credit default, etc. So we want to keep that these financial institutions can survive and also have a good business without leaving like women behind on their business. The fourth one, what we see that the impact of this COVID-19 to women happen like in three areas. One is like health, economic, and also social. But the last one, this can be like a bad thing, but there is a positive thing also. We believe that like beyond the economic impact, we believe that the world will be forever changed as a result of this pandemic. For instance, like now digitization is like growing everywhere, including the cashless society, decreased globalizations, and like the new world order. So this is like some general impact of the COVID-19 that we see, and we listen and learn from the partners that we work with like around the globe. And what are the trends that we see related to our works from these current situations? One, definitely what we see that the downward pressure on incomes, and we can see that the stark truth from this pandemic is that women are disproportionately impacted and will continue to feel the longer term economic and social consequences. Their spouse, their husband lose their job, and they have to take the roles more than like a caregiver and do some other works to earn income for their family, to support their family. The second one, we see around the world that there are so many effort given by the government to support the people through government to people payments to give them like money to survive like during this crisis. The third one, we see also that many women MSMEs continue to struggle to access credit. Like I said earlier, because of the liquidity issues, credit default faced by many of these financial institutions, then it's more difficult for women, especially like to access credit to support their business. The fourth one, this is an opportunity. We see that digitization of financial services is growing significantly. But women are less connected, less confident, and less prepared to use these services. So despite the growing of digitalization, we still see that women lag behind and need like an effort to access like anything digitized products and services. The last one, we see that building resilience is a crucial things to do, not only like during this COVID, but like post-COVID, because we believe that we want to prepare women to, to be ready to face like another future global shocks. And what are the opportunities that we see from this trend or from these current situations that influence our strategy in giving impact to women? One is definitely related to the government to people payments. We see that there are many countries around the world, 159 countries have introduced or adopted like many social protection measures to respond to COVID-19. And many of these G2P payments given either in a cash or in like a digital account. If it's in a cash, we see the negative impact, such as like many long lines, such as in India, to get the fund. So the government needs to work harder to make the process, make the delivery of the support is supporting the people, not like making or adding like additional burden to them to get like the money. The second one, digitization of the benefit transfer sometimes like have some difficulties also like among the women because they have like limited financial and digital capabilities to access the money given by the government. So we think that despite the efforts given from the government through G2P digitization, but we see there are many opportunities for financial institutions also to work harder to grab more like a business from these G2P payments. We believe that there are many or there are millions accounts being opened during this crisis, but once once everything is like get back to normal and the government is not continuing to give the money, what's going to happen like with this account? It's going to be like a dormant account, right? So we need to do something to educate the people, to let them know about the account, what is the purpose of the account, to help them like to manage their financial management using the account that they have currently. So we are currently doing some work such as like in India with like Bank of Baroda, in Indonesia with some like state-owned banks in Indonesia. We do some activations project related to the G2P accounts to educate the people to know that they can use the account for their financial household management, including like teaching them to save their money and to prepare themselves for next like global shocks. So this is the ideal journey that we see from the importance of digitized G2P. In the short term, we hope that the people, once they get access to a formal financial accounts, they can use that account to save, to make like receive remittances from their family, to pay bills digitally. In the medium term, we want them like to build like a banking history profile, unlocking access to other financial services like credit, so they can start like doing other things, start their own business, get access of capital to financial institutions, and also to let them to have more control and autonomy in using the money that they earn from their business for themselves and for their family. In the long term, we hope by providing this access to the women, then we can achieve women economic empowerment for their security and also prosperity. So this is the journey of our work related to the G2P accounts, including other accounts that we want to promote to women. The second opportunity that we see from this pandemic is around like savings and also insurance. We know like from our partner that like their savings rate is like decreasing during this crisis because they lost their job. So one of the sources to survive is like to use like their savings account to pay all the bills, to survive from this current situation until they get like a new job to earn more income. But we still see an opportunity for them to grow for the next post-COVID in savings, because this is an important piece, and like we found that they have the capacity to do that. It just need like a more like support, a nudge, or like push from us through different strategies to help these low income women to start like savings in a formal savings account to like prepare themselves. And the second one, what we see is like related to insurance. I think now awareness and the importance of insurance is increased like globally, because they know that it's an important product for them to, like to prepare from like any crisis like this. But the lack of quality and affordable product in micro insurance particularly, it still happen like many everywhere. Even like in Indonesia, we don't really have like a strong micro insurance product. So this is what we want to do, what we want to give to the market, so women have like an access to like an affordable and a good quality of insurance product. The third one, as Dr. Karen also said, that there are many like growing entrepreneurs now because of this pandemic, and there are many like MSMEs also like already like in this market, right? Especially like for women, there are so many like women involved in micro business, and with these current situations, they have like difficulties to access to capital to recover from their situations right now. So we see also that post-COVID economic recovery, it's going to be like an important theme or an important like area that we need to push, because we believe that this is what the women-led MSMEs need to recover from this current crisis. And around the world also, we see that the governments can play a large role in supporting financial institutions by providing such as like credit relaxation, or like provide like an interest rate subsidy to support them like to repay their loan during these current situations. But other than like a capital, another thing that needs to be given like to the women from our study is the knowledge about like how to run the business, because we found that there are many women micro entrepreneurs have like really bad like business management. So they need a mentor, they need like education like to run the business like in a good way, to grow and then to earn like more revenue. The last one, what we see during this current crisis and how we adjust our work is about like digitization. So we see like now there are so many new entrepreneurs, like people start like selling food or do business through like social media or like through e-commerce platform. And we can see that the growing of like digital economy happening like even higher and faster around the world. But we also have to notice that there is a gender gap between men and women in terms of like accessing mobile phones, for instance, to support them like in like connecting to the digital platform. So we still need to close the gender gap like in giving like access to women to access a mobile phone or technology to support their business. And we also found that the digital skills capability among women is still low. So women still need the support to increase their capacity in using like a digital platform to support like their business. So those are the 4 key pointers that we see as an opportunity and as a focus of our work to maintain our positive impact like during these current situations. And some key organization learnings or changes that we do during this crisis is, one, that we feel that we need to do like a strategy refresh. We need to be contextual, adjust our focus on strategy to relevant topics in this current situation, which include resilience, related to government benefits, micro insurance product, and also like economic recovery. The second one, we also trying to listen to our partners and network members, to listen, to know like their current situations, their problems, their issues, to provide guidance to support their business. The third, we believe that we cannot work just alone, like to support like all the women and also the financial institutions who focus in women. So we need to collaborate like with some key stakeholders in financial inclusions. The fourth one, we develop more strategic partnership with different institutions from government, including like the financial institution itself, to give more impact to women and their families, because we believe that we cannot work only by project, but we need to be like a policy-led organization to make like a bigger changes like to the people. Lastly, we believe that like if we want to give impact like to the people, external party of our organizations, we need also to listen to our internal team, because we want to make sure that they have like a good mental health to give productivity, so we can like continue our good work like to give impacts to the women. That's all. Thank you so much for listening to my to our stories, and over to you again, Ruth.
Okay, thank you, Elwyn. Both you and Karen have very interesting points, but I'm sure there are a lot of questions now from our participants. But before going to that, I'd like to call on Ruth to share his reaction on the points that you have discussed so far.
Yeah, it's really, really interesting. I really admire Karen's story, and I love that famous line about you're disadvantaged because you're a woman, you're disadvantaged probably because you're a Filipina. So just make your future, right? So I think entrepreneurship is really the way to go for women. So really admire that. But so you said entrepreneurship is the greatest equalizer, and I would like to add that education is the greatest equalizer. I come from very humble beginnings. I'm speaking to you right now because I'm educated, right? So, and I'm an entrepreneur. So education, entrepreneur. Also, for Elwyn, I think you said that women are good borrowers. So I think, for the financial institutions out there, you really have to give more importance to women, when it comes to lending, because they pay well, right? So in Connected Women, we are actually empowering women on the grassroots level. We have a current partnership with the UN Women, and we are training women in technology. So this is like artificial intelligence, very simple, simplified technology, so that women can get on board in science, technology, and engineering, arts, and mathematics, right? We found out that women that are on Facebook can actually use technology in the simplest form. And this is data labeling, wherein there's a human in the loop that teaches a machine to learn. And it's very, very simple. The profile of our women are household help, retired senior citizens like teachers, returning OFW, displaced COVID workers, single mothers. They label data, and they're really, really good. They have about 98% accuracy. So this is one way of onboarding women in technology, and we feel that it is really powerful, right? You empower women by training them, giving them education, empowering them now during the pandemic and beyond by giving them. So when we train them, we give them like a salary of sort per day for what they produce. So right now our partnerships is with Globe for Connectivity, UN Women, and we are still looking for corporate partners that want to do something for women during this pandemic. So I'm so glad to hear what Karen's story is, and Elwyn. And Karen, I want to know more about how you can have an IPO with a business plan, right? I think everybody has that question, like, how do you do that? But see, the time has changed, the world is changing, and everyone should change, right? Our mentality, connectivity is the only way, the only reason why we all survived the lockdown, right? So that's it. I think that's my my reaction to both speakers, and I think you carry on, and this world will be a better place to live in. Over to you.
Okay, let me take over now, Marivic, if it's okay.
Yes,
we have
Malu, thank
about
you.
15 minutes, so we'll make the conversation very snappy, very riveting, very interesting, very excellent presentation, stories, insights from Karen, from Elwyn, from Ruth. So let me ask the first question. A lot of people say that the Filipinos are educated and trained to be employees and not to be entrepreneurs. So, Karen, how do we develop in the Filipino that kind of entrepreneurial spirit or mindset, considering that as if the observation is correct, that we don't have an entrepreneurial culture in the country?
Surely. Thank you very much, Marilu, for that question. I also said it in the Q&A section. Well, to start with, this is not only in the Philippines. All over the world, entrepreneurship is not really an institutionalized kind of learning. But we have to understand that this is a golden era of entrepreneurship, similar to what happened after Great Depression. It was a golden era of capitalism. So at that time, that's when you started to have MBAs and business management studies. It's only recently that we're having entrepreneurship as actual course. What we can do right now is to have collaboration between universities and the industry itself. The institutions, the educational institutions should be very, very mindful that with all these changes, the books are almost obsolete. A lot of those information need to be updated immediately, but even the printing press may be closed right now. So we have to create a collaboration between industry and institution. That's number one. Number two is that, there's so much time right now that's being used on other social media things. Why don't we use Google, YouTube, and understand it, and from ourselves, teach it to our kids?
Mm-hmm.
Because, even in Robert Kiyosaki's book, he did not learn it from his parents. He learned it from another parent, so somebody else not from the same bloodline. So to be able to create this culture, this is very wonderful opportunity, like what FINEX is doing, encouraging people to learn more. And this is not just for you, by the way. You have to pass this forward because we are all investing our time together here. We all gather here, not only for all these people, but for these people as well to share all this knowledge.
That's very interesting insight. It's to really you develop it from all over your environment, from the technology that's available to you, the schools, your family, your community. So thank you for the insight. You're suggesting that some people are saying that there's a good time to go into business and a bad time to go into business. Do you agree? But what I'm getting from you is that under this pandemic, it is in fact a good time and perfect opportunity to be entrepreneurial.
Sure. What happens today has happened in the past. It's a cycle of life. Now, it depends on the person. The number one determinant, whether it is a bad time or a good time, is how desperate you are. Without desperation, and it's just in here, it's not going to happen. In my case, I need to make money for my daughter. There should be a driving force, a motivation, the purpose of it. If you don't see the purpose and the underlying motivation to do that, then maybe it's not the best time for you, because even if you start, you're not going to finish. So you have to be desperate, like you want it. It's like a matter of life and death. I want it and I'm going to have it. If
like
you
there's
have
no
that
plan
mindset,
B.
Yes, no plan B. Do it.
No plan B. It's the only option available to you. Because I just want to segue into another point that I wanted to raise. Some people distinguish between opportunity-based entrepreneurship and necessity-based entrepreneurship. Where opportunity-based is you find the market, you find the product, you find the technology, and you go entrepreneurial. Necessity-based is you lost your job, or your salary is not enough, or you need extra income and you go into business. Are you suggesting that necessity-based entrepreneurship could in fact possibly generate greater success than opportunity-based, or it doesn't really matter?
Well, your point is very important to understand, especially for all the audience here, because it's going to be my upcoming book. I'm plugging it.
Oh, okay.
It's the sweet spot. Okay, you have three circles. The first one is, what do the market want? What do they need? Okay. The second circle is, what are you so good at? Like, you're not just curious, you're not just passionate, you're so good at. And the last thing is that, what are other people not so good at it? So that's a sweet spot. Whatever's in the middle, people need it. It's necessity-based. You're good at it. You cannot just be half-hearted. And third is that other people are struggling to do it. If you find that spot, go. Get your business done.
Okay, good point. Let me just shift to Elwyn. Elwyn, you've been dealing with I guess primarily micro entrepreneur, women entrepreneurs. What, based on your observation and your interaction with these entrepreneurs, what do you think are obstacles that are specific to women entrepreneurs? Elwyn, you have to unmute yourself.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Marlo. Yeah, there are so many issues behind like like related to the women micro entrepreneurs here. But like one thing that we see that one of the struggles by women is because in some countries they don't have like really like a collateral, or they don't have an asset, right? There is an issues in terms of like having an asset and as asset like under women's name, mostly like it's under man's name. So this is related to more about like policy in each market that can be different from one to another. So our work is like around like how to encourage financial institutions to think about like a loan product using like a non-guarantee, or like using a movable collaterals as the guarantee to get access to the loan. That's one thing related to access to the loan. The second one is actually again back about like how to run the business, because this can influence the decisions of financial institutions to provide the capital also to them, right? To make sure that can they like repay the loan if they cannot like, you know, run the business in a good way. So for sustainability. So that questions need like an answer by giving the women like an educations about like how to run a good business, so they can, you know, generate more revenue from the business and give more like a confidence for the financial institutions to get a loan. So those are like some two examples that we see on the ground, but there are so many other issues around like the women micro entrepreneurs.
Do you supplement your assistance to women with education and training on finance or accounting, basic bookkeeping, time management, and other, you know, skills?
So our strategy can be different. One of the strategy that we give to women is, we call it as a digital and financial capability training, which include like different things. Yeah, if the business is related to like digital platform, then we can provide like a support in how educating them to access all these like digital platform. And the main focus is related to the financial capability training in terms of like how they can manage their business finance, because like one of the characteristic of this segmentation is they tend to mix up all their financial, right? Like between the business, including like the household finance. So we need to teach them how to separate like the household finance, including like the business finance, and also
sort of professionalize the management of the business.
Yeah. So yeah.
Okay, I have a question for Karen, and I think for Elwyn also, and maybe I could get Ruth to also give her insights on these. When we deal with micro entrepreneurs, there's a tendency, I think in the Philippines, for example, to have a me too attitude or mindset. Somebody opens a sari-sari store. Before you know it, the next door neighbor opens another sari-sari store. Or you have a gotohan. And before long, the entire neighborhood is filled with small karinderya or gotohan. How do we pull our micro entrepreneurs away from this Me Too mentality? And how do we develop their ability to scale their business or to scale up their business? Can I hear from you first, Karen?
Yes.
How do we move them away from micro to, you know, scaling up the business?
Sure. You know, I use that scenario to I describe the scenario as a sari store mentality. You know, I mean, I'm doing that in my talks in here. It's like when you see one sari store, there's going to be another sari store.
Yes.
Now, the number one thing that we have to have would be options. Okay. Because if you don't know anything else, if that's the only thing that you know, you will be doing the same thing. And that's where Ruth comment comes in. You have to educate people and give them a plethora of ideas that these are things that you can do. Because right now, if the only thing that you do is do sari store, then that's the only thing that you can actually do. So we need people who are pioneers, who will tell them, hey, this is actually a new kind of investment. Here we have, we are the organizer of the Philippine Property Investment Exhibition. Now, I would like to use this as a very quick case study. In 2014, So we had a survey and we say, are you planning to invest? And only 2 out of 10 said they have planned to invest. They would go back to Philippines as OFWs with no money, because everything else is with their relatives. So they go home and they have got no money and they start all over again. So we try to do that, and we try to change that by creating an event. Okay, so every year we're teaching people, we're inviting people from the Philippines to come over. We had like 10 property developers coming every year. Change the mindset, change the mindset. Okay.
Right.
Now, last year we had a survey, the same thing. So from 2 out of 10, now it's 76%. And the 76% are now willing to invest in stocks, in property, and even in their own businesses. But without that stimulus, you cannot change, because it's like asking somebody to write without teaching them.
Good point. Can we hear from Elwyn? Elwyn?
Marlo, our work mostly related to the financial services, right? I believe that to support the micro entrepreneurs like to grow, one thing is related about their knowledge, right? Their skills to run the business. But like that part is like, we don't really touch that part much. What we do is mostly like related to the access to finance, right? Because we believe despite like your skills, despite your capability to run the business, you still need a capital, right? So we see that moving from ultra micro, actually, the lowest one, ultra micro to micro and to small business. I mean, like, of course, they need like additional capital, but like how to build like the trust from the financial institutions to give that money to them, right? That's what we want to build on. The strategy is actually that apart from the business, this is slightly indirect, Marlo, that we want to build them also their skills in, savings, in putting aside like of the money that they earn from the business, so they can be, like independent and also sustainable also to run the business, not only rely on like the financial institution itself. So they have like a good access to their own capital. So this is what we think important to help them like to grow and move to the next level.
Can I have sorry, go ahead.
Apart from this also, this can be different from one to another, yeah, but like what we see, because we very interested like in the growing of the digital economy, such as like using e-commerce platform or the gig economy, we believe that, at some point they have this a good data system, right? Like on this e-commerce platform. And we just need like to connect all of this data point to as a proof to get them like an access to a bigger capital from financial institutions, because that's like the actual data points that can show how they run the business. So I think this is an important piece also in this digital world, and what we can leverage to grow, to support like the business for women like to grow bigger.
Ruth, you have any insights there?
Yeah, I agree with Karen. Options. You need to give them options. If that's all they see, the sari-sari store across the street. Yes, and then you tell them like, excuse me, there's another option here.
Right.
Are you using Facebook?
Yes.
For us, it's simple. If you're on Facebook, you can be part of this digital economy as well. Get on it. But there's very minimal capitalization if you already have a smartphone, and that's all you need for a very simple task on technology. But I think I want to like segue on something. We were talking to OWA for overseas Filipino workers that are coming back home. So all their lives they're OFW, right? And then they come back and they are given like 100,000 loan by the land bank together with the OWA. They teach them financial literacy, Elwyn. And so they put up a sari-sari store. And when we ask OWA, like how successful is that? They're like, well, not really, because the store closes down after like a few months because they really have no idea on running a business. So yeah, you cannot.
And they sell on credit. Everybody, the listahan of the utang goes longer and
parang
longer.
You're putting them in something that they're not comfortable in. I think you need to find that sweet spot again, right? For them to be able to thrive
in whatever they need to do economically to, you know, sustain themselves. Yeah.
We're running out of time. I think we will borrow extra 5 minutes from the next part of the program. Let me just very quickly check our Q&A box. They're asking for copies of the presentation. I guess we can share this with them. Somebody's asking for the contact details of Elwyn. We will provide that. Somebody's asking if Women's World Banking is in the Philippines. Perhaps, Elwyn, you could send us information about your presence in the Philippines rather than ask you to explain it now, because we don't have time, but please do take a note of it.
Okay.
And we'll try and send it to our attendees. And let me see. Question for Karen. The audience thanks you, Karen, for an excellent presentation. Also asking for copies of the presentation. Very encouraging and inspiring. And somebody said he liked the word desperation that you used as the stimulus for success and learning agility, which is an important skill. Okay, one final thing. For Karen, as an entrepreneur, what do you think is the greatest skill that a person should have to succeed as an entrepreneur? Very short and sweet answer.
Okay, the skill is in you. Okay, there's no specific skill because every specific skill is dependent on the person. But there are two things that you can do on that skill. Okay, number one is to have the confidence to actually communicate that. That's what Elwyn said earlier. Women specifically, they have low confidence. You have the confidence to tell people, tell all over the world, you are good at this and I'm going to help you with this product, this skills, or this service. Number two is learn business management. Okay, as an entrepreneur, I'm very good at what I do, but I don't know how to manage it before.
Okay, and I think that would be good input to Elwyn, because I guess, Elwyn, that should be part of the package that you provide to the women who access your programs. And Ruth, I guess that also is exactly what you're doing, training, educating, rounding up the women's skills to make them very productive on a sustainable basis. Thank you very much to our presenters and our reactor. Unfortunately, we've run out of time. I'm hoping we can have a part 2 so that we can cover a lot more area that we barely scratched in this afternoon session. Back to you, Marivic.
Indeed, that's a very interesting conversation, Malu, and thank you for leading that. I wish we did have more time. I was looking at the clock. There are so many questions still, but that calls for part 2 of this session. So at this point, I'd like to call our president, Mr. Jeng Pascual, to render his closing remarks. Jeng?
Thank you very much, Marivic. I was so interested in the conversation as well that I was willing to give up this part of the program. But like all good things, we need to end. So I'd like to thank our distinguished and very engaging speakers, Dr. Karen Remo from New Perspective Media Group. And congratulations, by the way, for being the Female Leader of the Year for the Middle East Economic Digest for last year. Mr. Elwyn Panggabean from Women's World Banking, not only for representing the male gender in this webinar, but also in demonstrating that men can support gender diversity and the important role that women play. And for Ms. Ruth Yu Owen from Upgrade Energy Philippines and Connected Women for sharing how you are empowering women by helping them become more future fluent and skilled in emerging technologies. Before we started the webinar, we had a short chat amongst the panelists about the numbers in terms of gender diversity. And I did some calculations. So as far as FINEX is concerned, 33% of the board is female. When we go down to our committees, it goes down to 30%. That's 7 out of 23 committees led by women. When we go to our past presidents, it's 7 out of 47, so around 15%. And for the CFO of the year, currently only 1 out of 13 or 8%. Now, for a country with a population of close to 50-50 men and women, I think FINEX can do much better. Going to the discussion, I was particularly interested, I got a lot of insights from the entrepreneurial culture that Karen was talking about, and most specifically customer centricity, because this is important not only for entrepreneurs but for big businesses as well. And if you link that to women, and which is what Elwyn was talking about, knowing about women's behaviors and enhancing opportunities for women, I think this sort of financial gender inclusion will enhance the value and growth potential for both business and society. Now, there are two main things that were quite relevant, I think, even for us in FINEX when Karen was talking about the financial executives in the new world. She talked about future programming, stakeholder focused, marketing enabler, and communication savvy. If you look at it, these characteristics relate to our criteria for the CFO of the year. Future programming is about being a strategist. Being stakeholder focused is being a steward. Marketing enabler is ensuring that you perform your job as a good operator to enable the rest of the organization. And communication savvy, that's about being a catalyst. Knowing, it's not only about knowing about saying no all the time, but knowing when to say yes and support the organization and celebrate those great stories. And on Elwyn's point on gender diverse teams, when I gave a talk in Shell before about gender diversity, I think it's important to realize that it's not only about the numbers, about how many male or female there are, but how we think, the relevant and important gender traits that we all exhibit. So all of us would have male and female traits, and it's important that we employ or deploy both these traits that we have in building a successful professional career. So with that, I'd like to thank the Women in Finance Committee, chaired by Terry and Larry as our liaison director, together with Marivic, Baby, Gay, and of course Malu for the excellent and very engaging moderation, and the FINEX Secretariat for always making it possible. And of course, all of you for joining us today. And I hope you all picked up something very insightful and useful for your day-to-day jobs and work. So thank you very much, everyone. And till our next webinar, take care.
Thank you, Cheng, and thank you again to our speakers and all the participants. So as we've said, this is just part of the journey of Women in FINEX, and there are more projects that we're going to undertake. So please do join us and support the committee. Thank you, everyone, and stay safe. Okay, I think we're off already. Thank you so much, Elwyn. Thank you, Ruth. Thank you, Cheng. Thank you, Karen.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Take care.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah,
Bye.
thanks.
Bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.